Now, in related news, after questioning the four so far recaptured fugitives, Israeli investigations are concluding that the prisoners had zero accomplices in their escape, neither in the prison nor on the outside. In fact, despite Palestinian calls for solidarity, it was thanks to reports from dozens of Arab Israelis that authorities apprehended the runaways, a fact that is now causing mistrust amongst the Palestinian and Arab populations. Joining me to discuss, founder and director of Palestinian Media Watch, Itamar Marcus. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, it was in Nazareth that the first few fugitives were caught, but dozens of youths and civilians in Nazareth are also protesting in solidarity with the escaped prisoners. So which is it? How would you characterize the level of support for the convicted terrorists amongst the Arab Israeli public as opposed to in the PA or in Gaza?
Well, first of all, it's what's important to know from the Palestinian Authority perspective, they're very upset that Israeli Arabs were involved in this. In fact, the official Palestinian Authority line is don't listen to the lies of the Israeli propaganda that said that Arabs from Nazareth helped Israel capture them because the Arabs of Nazareth are Palestinians and we're one Palestinian people. You have to understand that after the recent war, when Israeli Arabs across the country were involved in the violence, setting hundreds of fires in homes and then killing Israelis in a number of places, the Palestinian Authority was thrilled because they said this was a new message from Israeli Arabs that they now are shifting their identity completely to the Palestinian side. We're no longer Israeli Arabs. We're Palestinians living inside what they called inside Palestine, meaning inside the Green Line of Palestine. So this is very important. So now this is very disappointing for this image that the Palestinian Authority is trying to create of a unified Israeli Arab or Palestinian Israeli Arab with them. So therefore they're claiming it's a lie altogether, claiming don't listen to the Israeli lies. So that's the first thing that's very interesting. The second thing, it's difficult to say because we have no sense, even during the riots that happened in May, and they were terrible, they were widespread. We have no sense the thousands that were involved, to what extent they represent the hundreds of thousands and a million of Israeli Arabs. So thousands of people can do a lot of damage, but possible that they really were not representative. Right. So this will actually be determined in the future. We'll see to what extent Israeli Arabs will stick to their Israeli identity or stick to a Palestinian identity, which, according to the Palestinian Authority, is in conflict with an Israeli identity. You can't be both Palestinian Arab and Israeli Arab, according to the Palestinian Authority.
All right, well, would you give any credence whatsoever to some of these conspiracy theories? Could it actually be an Israeli plot to maybe divide and conquer or to sow division in the populations where, as you stated just a few months ago, there was some surprising support?
It would be a good idea to do something like that, but I don't give that much credit even to the Israeli administration. I believe that it was, as they said, it was an Israeli, they asked an Arab from Nazareth for food, and he went in and told the family that they asked for food, and they immediately called the police. So I would suspect that is what happened.
All right. Now, I want to ask you about another interesting phenomenon, actually, the doctoring of some of the photos of the captured fugitives to give them smiles on their face during the arrest. Some say that the smile photos are good to project strength, while others, even among the supporters, condemn the photoshopped images, arguing that we should know how these fugitives are truly feeling in order to empathize with them. What do you make of this trend, and what does it say about the Palestinian perspective, their point of view on these fugitives?
So first, let's look at the Palestinian Authority leadership. The Palestinian Authority leadership is saying that the escape from prison was more important than the fact that they were captured. Mahmoud al-Alul, for example, said they shamed the Israelis even though they were caught. Another Fatah leader said this is a story that will be told from generation to generation. They're constantly calling them heroes. The Palestinian Authority needs myths. Palestinian, there's no such thing, as an ancient, as a real Palestinian history. So they create history, they create myths. They say Jesus was a Palestinian. They talk about a 5,000-year-old Palestinian history. Well, now they're trying to create another myth. They're trying to create another myth that can be told from generation to generation, that the great Israeli prison wasn't strong enough to stop 6 Palestinian heroes from escaping. So that's the Palestinian Authority line. The photoshopped images go exactly, even though it wasn't done by the Palestinian Authority, but that goes exactly with the Palestinian Authority line of creating a heroic Palestinian people, a heroic past that never existed, and a heroic escape now, which was actually a failure in the end.
All right. Itamar Marcus, thank you so much for joining us and with your insights.
You're very welcome.